I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars.
There's a very useful four-letter word, and you're full of it.
Very good.
So tonight is our review of the 1974 James Bond film, The Man with the Golden Gun. Yes.
Yes, we threatened to do it, and here we are.
Here we are doing it.
Our guns.
Yes, I watched it last night. I believe you did as well.
Yeah. It's fresh.
It is very fresh. Yes, indeed. And I have to say, right up front, I adore this film.
Interesting. I'll tell you what. It's because I can't remember whether we said when we picked the next film, whether we said on air that the reason we were picking it is because it kind of underperformed.
It did underperform, very much so. Yeah, it did not do well on its release.
So our question basically was, does it deserve that sort of press, or was it actually a good one?
Yes. Well, I've just given my opinion on that subject.
Yes. What was interesting is, Kaylee was in the room while it was on.
Okay.
And she claimed to not be watching it, and yet, opinions flying left and right.
Paying a little more attention than we'd like to admit to, then.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's not a Bond aficionado. She has most certainly not seen them all. I would hazard a guess that she's barely seen any Roger Moore films. Actually, we pinned it down. I think she's only ever seen For Your Eyes Only of Roger Moore's.
Okay, later one. Okay.
Yeah. Because she said, well, why? I said, I'm watching this because it's homework.
Yes.
Well, what's the context?
Okay.
And I explained we are deciding whether this is a good one or whether it deserves the press that it got at the time of being a bit meh.
Yeah.
And from someone who doesn't like Bond and claimed to not be watching it, she was very venomous about it.
Venomous? Really?
Yeah, she just said, this is just bollocks.
I wouldn't have thought there was anything in it that would make someone venomous. I mean...
Well, it was all of the opinions going, what I think is the issue again, you're not fussed about Bond and you're watching one from the 70s, which is gonna, if you're not willing to give it a bit of time, then it is going to seem a bit out of touch. It
did not feature highly on our list of which ones would you start with if you'd never seen one.
Yes.
So it is fair to say that it's a very 70s movie.
It is, yeah. I mean, you can tell that immediately from Baltimore's collar.
Exactly.
Eye out with that man.
Yes, indeed. He had, the wardrobe really took off in this one. Really started to become Roger, with the first film in which Bond wears a double-breasted suit. There you go.
That's a good one. And he was wearing your favourite brand of watch as well, wasn't he?
My favourite brand of watch.
Well, it depends who's trying to flog it to you. He was, because he's wearing the old Rolex in this, isn't he?
He is wearing the Rolex in this. A few good close-ups. Yeah, absolutely.
Because in all fairness, there is a hefty amount of product placement in this.
There is a hefty amount of product. Yeah, there really is. We'll come on to the cars.
Yeah, cars are obvious, but like I say, lots of looking at Rolexes. Quite heavy on the have you seen my tiny little Sony screen?
Oh, yeah, a lot of, and the walkie-talkies.
Oh, yeah.
Big close-ups of the Sony badge.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah, that does happen.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you see it on screen, although it is credited the Calibri lighter that is part of the Golden Gun.
Yes, because they they made it, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
But you don't ever see the brand, I don't think.
You do. The logo is in the closing credits, but I don't think you see it on the
it
screen.
is, no, it's not like it's been engraved on any of his gubbins or anything like that.
Well, if it has, you never see it.
No.
So yeah.
So I suppose we should dig into it a little bit.
We should dig into it a little bit, yes.
Actually, one thing we should probably address up front is, because we discussed it off podcast and said that you ended up with a bit of tangent research, which we're not going to tackle here and now, but we are going to tackle separately.
Correct. You commented that this was the last film to involve Harry Saltzman as producer. And yes, I did. I went deep on Harry and his history and why he left the partnership after this film. So we'll come back to that in another episode. There's kind of too much. I don't want to detract from the movie by talking about that too much here. Yeah.
No, that's fair. We'll note that and go, yes, this was his last participation. So.
It was, and yeah, it's quite an interesting story. It's a bit off topic. It's not particularly car related, but it is most definitely Bond related. So
that's fine. That falls into our remit. It's not an issue. Yeah. But tonight is all film related, not producer related.
Correct.
So,
shall we start with a little bit of context?
Yes, please.
So the book was the last of the James Bond novels. It was actually published a year after Fleming's death in 1965. And it was a film that they had toyed with making a few times. It was originally planned to follow You Only Live Twice.
Okay.
After Sean had said he wasn't going to do another one, they had spoken with Roger, and Harry was absolutely sold. Cubby was not so sure, and they had looked at doing The Man with the Golden Gun as Roger's first film after You Only Live Twice, and they were going to shoot in Cambodia. That obviously all went a bit wrong, and Roger, the shooting schedule was delayed. Roger wasn't available. He'd signed up to do other films. I think he'd signed up to do The Man Who Haunted Himself, and a few other things. The Persuaders was kind of on the cards, so he wasn't available, and the schedule was delayed such that the winter shooting locations became available, and they decided to do On Her Majesty's Secret Service next with Mr. Lazenby.
Yep.
It then came back round again after Diamonds Are Forever, when obviously Roger was available, but they decided, and it was appropriate for them to shoot in Jamaica, but they decided it was the time of the Black Panthers, the whole blaxploitation thing, and they decided to go with Live and Let Die because that had a lot of black characters. So they went with Live and Let Die. And then it came back round again. But whilst the book is set in Jamaica, they obviously didn't want to do another film set in Jamaica. So they went hunting around for other locations. They looked at Beirut. They looked at Vietnam. But they couldn't really find anywhere. And they eventually settled on Thailand, which is where this film ends up. So it's a film they'd wanted to do for a while. And off the back of the success of Live and Let Die, the studio was very keen for them to crack on with another one. And Live and Let Die and Golden Gun were almost shot back to back. There's 4 months between them.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty swift.
Pretty swift. 4 months between wrapping on Live and Let Die and photography beginning on Man with the Golden Gun. So it was pretty brisk. Shooting started on November the 6th, 1973. Although interestingly, Roger Moore didn't start until the following April.
Oh, okay.
And there are actually a couple of scenes in the film which were shot with a double that aren't actually Roger Moore.
Okay.
We'll point those out as we go through. But he was busy at the time. This was the kind of height of his movie career. And the reason that he didn't start till April was that he was in South Africa filming Gold with Joanna York.
Oh yeah.
So he did Live and Let Die, flew to South Africa, did Gold, then flew back to Thailand to start work on Man with the Golden Gun. So he was a busy boy at this time.
Very good.
Yeah, so here we are, the 9th Bond film.
Yep, that's it. Well, we kick off with sort of shenanigans of, quite the opening scene with bit of booze, bit of lady, bit of three nips.
Yeah, that's indeed bit of Guinness and Tabasco. Yeah, absolutely. A few oysters on the go. Again, like Live and Let Die, this is a pre-title sequence that doesn't actually contain Bond.
True. I mean, the cheeky waxwork.
Oh, cheeky waxwork that gets a bit blown off. Yeah, indeed.
Oh. Not like that.
No. That would have been a very different sort of movie. Yes. You don't know where that 5th bullet goes.
Oh. See you suggesting it went in the Jaffas.
Well, he only shoots 4 fingers off, but there's 5 shots. So you be the judge.
This is true. Yep. Oh dear. Well, that's something I hadn't really thought about, but there we go. It's in there now. Right.
That's that ruined.
Yeah, that's gone. So
you'll be the death of me yet, Nick Nack. Yes. And all that.
It's quite a tolerant relationship those two have got.
It is, isn't it? It's a strange relationship, though. There's a lot going on, which we learn more of as we go along. But, yes. We assume that Nick Nack is inviting these various people along to have a go at killing him. Because he pays him before he goes in.
Yeah.
Half, you get the last letter and all of that.
Oh, I didn't know you were French.
No, you know why.
Oh dear, yeah, it's weird. But so's the whole opening thing, and I assume the theatrics are meant to sort of hark back to his circus upbringing. That's my take.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the basis of the character, the history of the character, comes straight from the book. Although the character itself is very different, it's actually much better in the film than it is in the book. He's kind of just a hoodlum in the book, but in the movie they make him a much fuller, more sophisticated character. But yes, I presume the theatrics are because of his love of the circus. Yeah.
That was my take on it.
It's a good shout.
I thought, oh, that's very insightful.
Because it's all in there, isn't it? The flashing lights and the mirrors and as you said, the waxwork dummies and all the tricks.
Yes.
Again, another wonderful Ken Adams set. Which kind of has no form to it. It's very clever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You never quite work out, and you sort of see bits of other areas that we don't go into. There's the sort of things on the walls, and it's all dark, and you don't quite know where the edges of it all are.
You can't really map it out in your head, can you?
Not at all. No, and all the weird shapes, and it's a clever set, very clever set.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned about Scaramanga being more
fuller character
in the film. I think that's very important because you've got a very strong actor.
Oh, one of the strongest actually of all of them.
Where you would probably say, actually, Could you sort of say that he's a bigger name than Roger Moore at this particular moment in time when that film popped out?
That's a tough call. I mean, he was very known for Dracula at the time, but then Roger Moore was also known for The Saint.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Was he bigger than Roger at the time? I don't know. That's a tough call. Possibly. Possibly.
I think we could probably argue that the only other time that's possibly happened with Telly Savalas and George Lazenby.
Yes, well, almost everyone in the film was more well known than George Lazenby.
Well, that's the problem. They picked incredibly famous people to work alongside.
Yeah, they did. Even the likes of Ilse Steppat was very big in Germany, even though she wasn't known worldwide.
She's a treasure.
Yes,
lady, that one.
Oh yeah, charming.
Yeah.
Yeah, entirely possible. Yeah, I mean, he certainly was known worldwide for Dracula. Yeah.
Yes.
Entirely possible.
Tremendous. I mean, in general, a very good cast.
Very good cast. I mean, again, you see, Britt Ekland was really making a name for herself at this point. So yeah, it is a very good cast, and Maud Adams, of course, the only recurring actress in the series. Well, I mean, obviously Lois Maxwell and people like that, but recurring villain in the series.
Yeah, she plays that well. Like I said, we're not religiously steaming through this in order. However,
no.
So, you mentioned the topic of recurring characters. A certain holidaying Louisiana State policeman.
Oh, Sheriff Pepper. Yes, absolutely. J.W. Pepper, Louisiana State Police. Here's my identification. Yes. A lot of that. Apparently he was so popular that they decided to get him back. Which
is odd, isn't it? Because you look back and go, probably do without him.
Well, Man with the Golden Gun is a strange film in that there's moments of kind of almost slapstick comedy, and there's also moments of, drama in it. It's a film, and I think this maybe was part of its problem. It's a film that doesn't quite seem to know what it is. Some of the stuff with Roger Moore was slightly odd as well. Although we haven't come to this scene yet, but the scene later on where he's slapping Andrea around in the hotel room to try and find out where Scaramanga is. That's a very uncomfortable scene with Roger playing it. He seems uncomfortable doing it.
He would have been happy tickling her, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it was partly that they were trying to figure out how to write for Roger because it was different to how they wrote for Sean. But yeah, there's a few places in it where it doesn't quite work, and I wonder if that contributed to the problem. Was that there's a few scenes there that bit uncomfortable.
It's a bit awkward here and there, but I suppose he's still finding his feet, isn't he?
Well, he's still finding his feet, and the writers were still finding his feet on how to write Bond for him, because his style was so different to what they'd done before.
Some of the fight scenes can be a little too choreographed, I would say.
Certainly the one in Beirut.
Yes. You have a magnificent abdomen.
Oh, yeah.
Worst chat-up line ever. Oh, it makes you want to vomit on the spot.
Oh, it's really bad, isn't it?
Awful.
Oh, that whole scene, it doesn't need to exist because it doesn't advance the story at all.
Well, he gets the bullet, which they then identify as Lazar's handiwork.
We'll come on to that with the guy from Fawlty Towers, yeah.
Yes, that doesn't help, does it?
He does. That's another character that doesn't need to be there. But we've jumped ahead slightly.
I think we're allowed to jump around this time. Let's go free and easy this time rather than linear with Goldeneye and see which one comes out better.
Okie dokie. Well, yes, that is a bit of a cringy scene. Yeah,
Mm.
your dancing is superb. Yeah, and all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah. Oh.
There's also a blooper in that scene.
Oh, is there?
Do you remember this? I've mentioned this before. During the fight, in the rear right-hand corner of the room is a dressing table with a mirror on it, and they knock it during the fight, and for a second you can see the film crew in the mirror.
Oh, yes, I do recall. Yes.
Because when they came to remaster the films for DVD, they were wondering whether to take that out and digitally blank off the mirror, but they didn't. They left it in because it is there. It's original. It's how it was.
Well, that's everyone's. Certain circles will be well aware of it, so you might as well own it, mightn't you?
The difference, with that fight scene is there is a little bit of blood, which is unusual for Bond.
Yeah,
he gets Bond of that era.
Yeah, he gets a bit of a leak on there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Then he has to head off to the nearest pharmacy.
Pharmacy, yes.
Needs to get someone in sharpish to fire that right out.
Yes.
That bullet's going to get fired twice.
You mean there's no way to trace that bullet? You've no idea what it went through to get here.
Yes, not so good. So yes,
but it's interesting. That whole sequence is interesting because effectively, as we learn from the scene immediately after the title sequence, Bond's not actually on a mission. He's been relieved of his mission.
Yes, I noted that down.
He's on a bit of an he's on a bit of an off the books thing here. Yet he's able to go back to Q and get a report on the bullet, and the other guy from Faulty Towers is there again.
I sell outboard motors.
Yes. Yes, so much more interesting than being a hotel inspector.
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah, and I feel the need to say, Phil, Faulty Towers is a comedy show from the early to mid 70s.
Very good.
You may have heard of it. There
good
we go.
To clarify that. Yes.
He always likes that. It winds him up a treat.
Oh, yeah. Well, then it's absolutely worth doing. Yes. Classic British comedy. Anyway, yes, it is him. But I do think, actually, just stepping back for a moment, I do think the scene in M's office is very well played.
Yeah, that's good. I do like that. M's not amused, but I wouldn't call him playful, but he's.
I think he's quite enjoying watching Bond squirm as they explain to him that this bullet has been sent to him with his number on it, and who would pay him? Yes, who would pay $1 million to have me killed?
This is endless.
Yes, outraged chefs, humiliated husbands. Yes, outraged tailors. The list is endless. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, even if one of them couldn't afford it, they could probably pool their resources.
And get rid of him. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yes, that is good. They do work off one another very well, actually.
And they do. And Bernard Lee's increasing animosity towards his star agent is really getting into its stride at this point. Interestingly, the other character in that scene, not the guy from Faulty Towers, the other one, in the credits is Tanner, who, of course, comes back in the Brosnan and Craig era. Yeah,
and Tanner's obviously a firm favourite in the books.
Yes.
It's a very much a recurring character.
But we don't see him really come into his own until the much, much more recent films. But nevertheless, there he is.
Yes, noted. Very good.
Chief of Staff. He does reappear in For Your Eyes Only.
Okay.
Which actually doesn't have M because Bernard Lee had passed away.
Yes, of course. Yes, we had our only Bond film without M, didn't we?
Without M, and the Chief of Staff gives him his mission. A different actor, but yes. Anyway,
very well noted. Yep.
But yeah, I think nice scene in M's office where they ask him, does he know what do you know about a man called Scaramanga? 007.
Oh, he reels it all off and
Reels
goes,
off the whole CV, yes, that's right, which is straight from the book.
and you go, oh, I didn't realise you were a stalker. Good heavens.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
You know a lot about this guy. Yes.
Which is, that's good. With it being Roger, it's really nice to see that the obligatory safari suit is out in action.
It's there, isn't it? Yes, it is there when he goes to visit Lazar.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, the white safari suit.
Precisely at your groin.
Yes.
Yeah. Whatever gets you going.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Yes.
Very good.
He plays that scene very well.
That was good. That was seemed to be a lot of fun had there.
Yeah. Well, you can tell with this film, can't you, that Roger, for the most part, is really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So that's... Yes,
get some good information from Lazar. I like the introduction of him. They've chosen an actor who had a sort of similar passing facial silhouette to Christopher Lee. And when he's sort of half behind the curtain, trying to look out, I've always got the impression they were perhaps just trying to, for a second, you made to think that that's Scaramanga.
Yeah. I've not thought of that, but I can see that. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, I don't know if that was intentional, but that's how I always saw it. But nice little scene with him. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's good. So we go through all the palaver of bullets and ladies and really dodgy Oriental casinos.
Yeah, weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. We've one thing that I did notice is that obviously some of the film partially evolves around the Solex agitator and the solutions to the energy crisis.
Solutions to an energy crisis, yes, that's right. Very, very topical. As it turned out, yes.
Yeah, which I thought, well, I can't say for at the time because I wasn't there. But now it seems to resonate more than ever. That particular thing.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a line later on, isn't there? Much later on, near the end of the film, where Bond says to Scaramanga, the oil sheiks will pay you just to keep solar energy off the market. I thought that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
The oil company's desperate to stop renewable energy.
Yeah, they don't like a bit of it, do they?
They do not.
No, they were right on the money.
It's a very topical story from that point of view.
What we talking? So we're talking 74 release, but filming in
late 73, early 74. Yeah.
Which is bang on the oil crisis.
It is bang on the oil crisis. President Carter and everything that he was doing to try and tackle it. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. It was topical at the time.
Yeah.
But the solar energy stuff particularly resonates today, probably more so than it did at the time. I mean, the technology is complete bobbins in the film. But
it's not bang on, is it?
No, it's not.
No, you get a cheeky mirror out your rock, fire it through a little jobby, get your agitator, and then power everywhere.
We've got solar panels on our roof. I'm not aware we've got an agitator anywhere. I'd have noticed.
Have you got a beam as well?
Well, again, not that I've seen.
I know, like I said, I know we're jumping about and it's kind of on purpose. But obviously the tension in that scene of him trying to acquire an agitator out of the gubbins.
Yes, hitting it with his gun.
Yeah, all of that. And then Goodnight in her ass turns it on.
Oh, just push every damn button, will you?
So that's happened. So he's had a beam nearly take his face off. Immediately, all trust in the world, not verified anything himself, puts his foot right over it.
I noticed that. Yes.
So I would be a tad more cautious if that were me.
I'd be trying to do that at arm's length if at
Yeah.
all possible. Yes.
Not
I know the place.
straddling it.
I know the place is on fire and it's going to blow up any minute. But even so, yes, I'm not clambering all over it, having now seen twice what it does.
Yeah, not brilliant. Scaramanga's staff.
Yes,
he's only got the two of them, really.
He has a plant, yeah.
Knick-Knack is the consistent servant.
Well, he seems to be with him all the time, doesn't he? Because he's with him. He's with him on the boat. He's with him in Hong Kong. Yeah, he seems to be going around with him everywhere. Yeah, I think their reasons for being in Thailand generally are a bit questionable. But anyway, we'll skim over that.
Yeah, no, you don't want to worry too much about that. What is a bit odd that Knick-Knack has constantly got these little perv slots that he peeks through.
He does.
Whether it's in the hideout,
he's got his little control room there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got his control room in the hollowed out rock in Thailand. And then on the boat, he's got his little flaps that he can peer through.
Oh, yeah, that's true, isn't it? Right above the bed as well.
Yeah,
that's a bit.
Oh, what is he doing?
Oh, do you like him to watch?
Oh. It's a very unique relationship.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
They are a strange duo, aren't they?
And then you've got the ever mute Kra, who looks like, well, let's be honest, he looks like he's been dragged directly from the set of a porn film.
He does. I've always wondered if he was left over from Living the Time.
What do you reckon? He perhaps wasn't left over. Do you reckon he was promised a part and never had it, and they went,
and didn't get one? God! All right, you can have one in this film.
Yeah, and all you're going to do is gesture at women,
and then you're going to get hit over the head with an enormous spanner. Not like that. No.
And the only thing after that is you look at he lands in one of the coolant tanks, and you think, if only they had a lid.
If only they'd thought of that.
Yeah.
Even though it's total nonsense. But the only noise he utters in the entire film is "Ah!"
Yeah, he has a little tumble, and
that's it.
He turns to instant icicle, and
he's all bubbly down there.
Yeah.
It's not the deepest part in the film, I grant you.
No, but it's just. I mean, he's wearing his really dodgy boiler suit thing with the ridiculous moustache, and he's just, I've come to fix your plumbing. Yes. Oh God.
That's what he's used to, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what his film career up to this point has consisted of, I fear. Yes.
Yes, and not so great with that bit.
No, that is a strange choice. You're quite right. Yeah. Scaramanga's staff are an odd pair.
Yes, he's Knick-Knack does me very nicely. Does he?
Yeah, when he's not polishing the silver. Yes. He's there's the whole thing, the whole setup there is weird.
That's it. When Bond arrives at his little island and he shoots the cork out the champagne and oses Knick-Knack down.
Oh yeah, a harmless toy.
Is it? No, it's a gun, mate.
Yes.
Have your face off.
Oh, and he's in High Fat's garden, isn't he? Wearing those little pants.
Oh God, yeah.
You'd forgotten about that bit, hadn't you?
Oh God, it was only yesterday, but I'd blocked that bit out.
He hits Bond over the head with some sort of
incredibly fake fork, because you can see him wielding it around, going, "Well, that's made of paper mache, isn't it?"
That's clearly got no weight to it at all. Yes. You're not stabbing anybody with that.
No, that's not going to get it done. So no, yes,
not here.
Oh no! Then he goes off to the martial arts place, doesn't he?
Take Mr. Bond to school.
There you go. Which is again all a bit weird, because then you've got Hip and his what are they, daughters, nieces? I can't remember.
That's
It's only
point.
yesterday.
What are they? Yeah, nieces, possibly. Yeah, yeah. They're not
his daughters.
They're not his daughters, are they? No. Yes, because later on he says their father runs the karate school.
Yep. So
I think they're nieces. Yeah.
Yeah. So they kick the shit out of every participant in that particular karate school.
Nice Mercedes he's got though.
Yes. Good.
240D. I suspect.
Good Merc action in that film. I've been trying to save ourselves for the cars. I think that should be our crescendo.
It's not as significant in the story. I just thought I'd mention it. Yes.
No, that's fine. I think we'll conclude with cars because it was big in this. Because it's not a Bond car. He doesn't have Bond cars.
No, not at all. No.
There are a lot of cars.
Does some good stuff, and I've done some research into it. So yes,
well, that's good. I've got a few more points about the film in general, so we'll tackle those. But we'll get to car, then we'll summarise in general after cars. I think that's probably best. Well, one thing that with all the theatrical arena where all of these showdowns take place, and obviously we end up there with Scaramanga and Bond doing it.
Yeah.
I feel that Bond is portrayed too naively in that scene. Like he fires off 3 shots in sheer panic. It almost seems like a big girl's blouse. You go, no, this is a spy. Come on.
The PPK of that era was a 6 shot. Later ones were an 8, but that one was a 6.
Yeah.
He fires 1 during the duel. That's fair enough.
Yeah, you expect to spin, turn, shoot, but no Scaramanga.
He wasn't expecting Scaramanga to be dishonourable and scarp her off like that.
Silly boy.
So yeah, he wastes 1 shot there, but that's fair enough. He doesn't.
Well, I almost went a bit Partridge there. And move and fire, and move and fire. Yeah.
He did. That's true. No, not that at all. Oh dear! Now I suspect this would have been one of his favourites. But anyway, and then he does a bit of creeping around outside. I've never killed a midget before, etc. You couldn't get away with that line today.
No, naughty line.
Yes, although I note the close-ups of the gun, it isn't cocked.
Oh, okay, that's all right then.
So. But yes, you're right. Once he gets in there, he's quite quick to fire off the next 2, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bit too jumpy for my liking.
Kind of nothing. I mean, he fires basically a picture of Scaramanga.
And
then he fires again at the cowboy.
Those are the 2 bits that I would sort of say that doesn't fit his character, and it bothered me.
No, I've never thought of that, but you're quite right. Yeah, you only have 3 bullets left and all of that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's setting up jeopardy, but for the sake of it. And actually, since he then drops the gun and loses it, it actually doesn't matter how many he's fired because he hasn't got any of them. So he could have just fired the 1. And it wouldn't have made any difference because he then drops it. So
okay, but this lines up my next question for another note based on this end scene. Yes, he drops the gun, but then he knows that they spotted himself as a waxwing. And think, right, I'm going to dress up like he'll never get this.
Yeah, exactly. Conveniently wearing the same shirt and trousers, so he can just pop the tie and jacket on, and he looks exactly the same.
Well, it works because when he rocks up, he's wearing quite the jazzy jacket. But he does have black trousers on, so it's fine.
He has black trousers and a black tie, which is the same as the dummy. The dummy has a black jacket, but also an off-white shirt, so it's a bit of convenience. But yeah, that is quite a jacket he arrives in.
Yeah, that's bold. That is
what, not for 1974. It wasn't.
No, I suppose not. No, we look at it now and go, "Whoa, get dressed in the dark, did you?
One of the reviews I remember seeing of this film once was that Roger Moore looked more like a tailor's dummy than ever before.
Oh, that's cruel.
That's harsh, isn't it? That's harsh.
It's just the 70s. Relax.
Roger wasn't wearing anything that was at all outrageous.
No.
He really didn't. That was the look of the time.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
No.
I wouldn't wear any of it, but I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I mean, the black suit is okay. It's just a black suit, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can lose the flaring element of the trousers if you like.
Oh, yeah, you could have a nasty accident with those.
Oh, yeah.
But interestingly, whilst we touch on the topic of him disguising himself as his own waxwork, Scaramanga has kept the gun loaded.
Well, that's my point. That was exactly what. Right.
Okay.
So, are you saying that this waxwork is holding a loaded PPK, or in all of the quiet where Bond inevitably climbs down from the scaffolding that he's a part of there, does he happen to pick up his gun that he dropped?
Or is he carrying a spare clip?
And what did he do with the waxwork? Is there a stark bollock waxwork of?
Well, no, because he
Bond?
only needs the tie and the jacket. The shirt and the trousers are okay.
Well, that's fine, but it's still kicking about somewhere. It's lying on the floor with its arms pointing in the air.
I never thought of that. You're right. What did he do with the dummy? Did he throw it off the side? No, because that would have made another weird noise. It would have made everybody stop. So it's in there somewhere, isn't it?
It is. Oh, yeah.
That is a bit weird. And he's had to get it out of the way silently.
I'm willing to bet away a bit. I've never manhandled the waxwork.
Although if you look at it in the pre-title sequence, it is rocking back and forth a little bit.
Oh, yes, you're right, actually. Maybe it's more flimsy than it looks. Yeah.
Because he's standing in a slightly strange way, the feet are quite close together. So there's not a lot of weight distribution there.
Yeah, so, potential for toppling.
Yeah, I think so. You need to screw that down. But obviously it isn't screwed down because Bond's able to pick it up and get it out of the way and replace himself with it and do exactly the same pose. And hope that Scaramanga doesn't notice that the fingers have grown back.
Well, he didn't notice, so it's fine.
He didn't. It's true, but I suppose that was Bond's only chance. He just had to hope that the gun had at least one bullet in it, unless he had a spare magazine in his pocket, which is entirely possible.
Oh yeah. He strikes me as being reasonably prepared. So.
I would have thought he'd have at least one spare clip because it is only a 6-shot. And that would explain why he's perhaps a little bit loose shooting them when he's in the mirrors.
No, I still won't accept that.
You don't know. Fair enough.
No.
It's fair enough.
No, I'm not having it.
It's a valid point. He doesn't have quite as much fun in there as the hitman in the pre-title sequence. I like the Al Capone reference.
Yeah, he's quite chatty in there, isn't he?
Now, let me just step back to that, and I know we're going right back to the beginning here, but whoever he is, we never find out his name, I don't think, do we? But he is played by an actor called Mark Lawrence. He's the same actor who appears in Diamonds Are Forever. He throws Lana Wood off the balcony in the hotel.
I didn't know there was a pool down there.
Him. It's the same actor.
Yep.
I like to think it's the same character.
I could see that, actually.
Yeah.
I could see that level of consistency. Yeah.
He made it. His whole career was based on playing that character, in fact.
Yeah.
He did it loads of times. I just think it's not because he's kind of dressed the same hat. I like to think it's the same. It's the same character as well.
I genuinely think that could be just an American stooge of some sort, and you go, well, actually, that it's the kind of consistency that you could believe without any real issue.
I think so. Generic goon number 3. Yes.
Because well, when you go back to Diamonds Are Forever, he's not even credited with. I think he's credited in the film, but not even with the proper name.
No, the actor is called Mark Lawrence, but he's passed away now. But Los Angeles-based actor, but he's not credited with a name, and I don't think he is in this either. But
so that's entirely possible. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I like that.
I quite like that. Yeah,
happy with that. What other bits have I got here? Theme song. That was it.
Oh, yeah, we have to touch on that.
Yes. Incredibly of its time. In style and artist selection.
Yeah, absolutely. But it fits really well.
It does. I mean, if you're in a quiet room and that comes on, it'll scare the shit out of you.
Oh, that beginning bit. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I think, and it follows the gunshot of the pre-title sequence. I think it leads you into the titles really well. He fires the 5 shots. We get the close-up of Roger's face and the echo of the last shot, and then straight into that theme song. I think that works really well. Slightly slower version of it across the end credits.
Oh, but it soon ramps up again.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's a little bit slower all the way through, actually, and it's shorter.
I suppose when we say it ramps up, is Lulu's volume goes up, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
Which is a bit that'll terrify you. No, I'm awake, honest. My goodness me.
Yeah, that'll get you going. I believe the first time they used different lyrics to open the song at the end of the film than to the beginning. The whole "Good night, good night, sleep well, my dear. No need to fear. James Bond is here."
Yeah, that, and then cue the volume.
Yeah,
because the scary lady's screaming at you again.
It did quite well.
Yeah, incredibly popular, and I jest about it, but like I said, I think it's brilliant. I think it's incredibly fitting for the film.
The lyrics are
on the nose.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I think Don Black had read the script. Yeah.
Yes, and at not any point figured out what a metaphor is or anything like that.
No. This is not the place for metaphor.
No. But no, we're doing it a disservice. It's incredibly well liked, and I think it's really strong.
As is the title sequence generally, actually, from Maurice Binder. I remember Roger Moore saying that there were certain places where the title sequence would be censored, and they'd cut it out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
sorry, I was slurping my beer.
You were slurping your beer. Apparently there were a few countries that censored the titles on Golden Gun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I suppose, though, when we look at it with fresh eyes in comparison to when it was originally out, and you go, well, now you go, well, so what?
Yeah, but then, he was on the edge with a lot of what he was doing with that. But
and as we know from the subsequent film, bit of Bush.
There we go. Yes, indeed. Yep. That applies here also.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but fortunately, Partridge did not ruin this song for us. So.
No, he did not. No clang-a-langs here.
No, we'll get to that, but in no particular order.
We will get to that eventually, yeah. But it is a strong song. You're right. It works very well with the style of the film. And, of course, wraps in beautifully with the John Barry score.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Really good. So... Should we get onto cars? Should we do that?
Should we get into the cars? Yeah, mainly in Thailand.
Cheeky bit of Hong Kong. We've mentioned it before. The Rolls, for instance, and
the green Rolls Royce, yes, and the MG. Yeah, that's true. The inverted bedpan, as Bond calls it. Yeah.
Well, and he's not wrong. The colour is iffy.
The colour is very strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. That's a classic British Leyland.
That is a
colour.
70s colour right there. But
It
at
is.
least because it was getting very, very close to rubber bumper era, 74, I believe.
That's true. Yeah, that's
But
true.
fortunately, obviously filmed in 73, so it's still on the chrome bumpers, wire wheels.
Yeah, the Hong Kong stuff, I believe, was... Well, no, it must have been shot in 74 because Roger didn't start work until April of 74. So, although some of it was shot in 73, they started photography in November of 73. But Roger Moore didn't start on the film until April of 74.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking. So I definitely know.
But they'll have
Rubber
acquired the car before then.
Well, actually, because the chrome bumpers were made into 74, I think the rubber bumpers are technically known as the 1974 and a half.
Okay. So we could be right on the tail end of the chrome bumper. I mean, we're not in America, of course. So
no. So we got the chrome bumpered wire wheels, because obviously a lot of them around that time had the kind of four spoke Rostov.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the alloys. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But this one had the wire wheels. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, the green rolls, very nice.
And all green Rolls Royces belong to the Peninsula Hotel. Yes, and I believe that is still the case today.
Oh yes, we said that. I'm assuming
courtesy cars. Yeah,
they're not rocking around in shads, I assume.
No, I think they've updated them over the years. Yes, because if you cast your mind back to 1988 and Michael Palin going around the world in 80 days, when he's in Hong Kong, he gets picked up at the docks in a green Rolls Royce and taken to the Peninsula Hotel.
Good heavens, that is a long time since I've watched
that. It's the later Rolls. It's the really boxy 80s one with the big square headlights. And and I've seen it elsewhere as well, with people going to the Peninsula in Hong Kong, and they get picked up in a green Rolls. So I believe it's a kind of staple of the place that their courtesy cars are green Rolls Royces. That is genuine. That's really the case.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bit odd that Bond didn't know that, given how well travelled he is and how he likes to stay in fine establishments.
You think he'd be all over that? I just had a quick Google, and there's some photos of some more modern stuff, Phantoms and the like.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
they're well known for it. It's it's kind of
it's their thing.
One of the things you get when you stay at that hotel is that you get use of a Rolls Royce. Yeah.
Some might say they could lower the price of the rooms if they didn't have to maintain an entire fleet of Rolls Royce.
I think if you're staying at the Peninsula, you're probably not too bothered.
Are you suggesting you're not going to find them on Booking.com?
I'm going to suggest it's one of those places, if you have to ask the price, you probably can't afford it.
Yes.
Yes. I think so. Yes. And as we learn in this film, the builders aren't too fussy about whose door they open for you.
Oh, surprise!
Well, you could open a door for me, though. Yeah. Well, who are you? You're not even staying here.
No, but you say it with confidence. That's the thing, isn't it?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. And he had bought a bottle of champagne off him, because where else is he getting it from?
No. He'll have found some way of pushing it around and liberated it, wouldn't he?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he will. He'll have found it on a trolley.
Yeah. Yep. Mine.
I'm having that. Yes. Yeah. Well, we know he likes to drink.
Yeah. So that's that dealt with. Okay, so I suppose it's going to bring us on to the cars that are just a clanger more than anything.
Well, all the left-hand drive American cars, right-hand drive country. Yes,
because you look around,
it's fine.
And it's going. all of these other cars are right-hand drive, and quite a lot of them are British cars. Some of them are European cars. And then you go, what we've got here is Scaramanga has got his own personal car, which is an AMC. We then go to the AMC showroom, and for some reason, Sheriff J.W. Pepper's there and wants to test drive an AMC on his holiday.
Yes, it's all very strange, random. Isn't it?
Yes. And then the police. Oh, what are they driving?
Yeah, the Hong Kong police are driving AMC cars. What's going on here? It's very strange, isn't it? Yes, that is product placement at all costs.
Yes. So, like you say, it is a bit clangerish, shall we say?
But it kind of all came as a package.
Yes, that's fair. Yeah.
They had the stunt team, the driving stunt team that they'd used for Live and Let Die. And this team, I believe, led by a guy called Jerry Como, might be wrong about that, but I think that's right, assumed because they were making another one, basically back to back, he would get the deal for Golden Gun. But one of his competitors, called W.J. Milligan, had a stunt that he had been developing for his thrill show, as it was called, his automotive stunt show that he'd been taking around America.
Yeah.
And he'd got this stunt where he could jump a car, do a full corkscrew roll in midair, and then land it back on its wheels. He'd had the idea for this stunt and had it all worked out on computer. It was actually the first car stunt in the world to be worked out by a computer. And it was done. He'd been doing this stunt. He'd worked out the stunt in too, so it had been around a little while, and he'd done it in his own show for a couple of years. It was all worked out by a programmer at Cornell University called Raymond McHenry. And
nice.
he had written some software. He worked for a company called Calspan, which was a division of Cornell University. And he'd written some software which was being used by the National Highways Safety Bureau. They were doing investigations and reconstructions of single automobile accidents all around the world. And he'd written the software for this program. But he'd worked out that it was mathematically possible for a car to hit a ramp, roll over in midair, and then land back on its wheels. And he'd worked this out with this stunt guy, W.J. Milligan, and they'd got it to work. And he was doing it in his show. And he'd heard that there was a new Bond film being done, and he quite fancied getting in on that action. So he contacted Cubby and said, I've got this stunt that I've been doing. I think it would go really well in a Bond film. Are you interested? And Cubby said yes, but you need to be able to perform it for us on camera, and I want to buy the rights to it. I don't want anybody else to be able to use it. I want exclusive rights to it.
Okay.
And he agreed. And he sold the patent of this particular stunt to Eon Productions. And they bought it. It was called the Astro Spiral Jump. That was the official name.
Yes, that's it.
Because Milligan had been performing it at the Houston Astrodome in Texas. That's where the name came from.
Oh, okay.
That's where he'd been doing his show. So he and his crew were flown out to Thailand, but they weren't allowed to use their own cars. they had worked out a deal. Milligan had worked out a deal to use AMC cars. AMC were very keen at getting their vehicles in movies. And he'd done a deal with them that he would use AMC cars. So when he approached Cubby, that was part of the deal, was that, yeah, okay, I'll sell you the rights to do this and we'll come and do it for you. And you'll obviously pay us for doing it, but it has to be, it comes with AMC sponsorship. It has to be done with AMC cars. That's how they ended up with them in the film. And obviously Scaramanga was driving an AMC Matador, and Bond was driving an AMC Hornet hatchback. There was a saloon version of it, so the hatchback is
it's important
correct.
to note.
Yes, indeed.
I think that is important in the sense that I'm sure that came up in one of our famous quizzes.
I think it did, yeah, and I don't know whether we said hatchback, actually. We may have lost a point on that.
No, I think actually more likely is the answer on the question sheet was AMC Hornet.
And then we said yes.
I think you'll find.
I think I'll find it's the V8 hatchback. Yes.
Yeah. And probably at which point, do you want the point or not? But yes, please.
Probably a bit of that.
Yeah,
I should. Yeah, you're probably right. Then you probably remember that better than me. But anyway, so they had to do it with, or they selected to do. They had to do it with AMCs, and they selected obviously the Hornet as the car that Bond and the Sheriff are in. Now the car needed heavy modification.
Yeah, just a bit.
Just a bit. It had to be, for the calculations to work, the car had to be perfectly weight balanced 50-50 in both directions, so front to back, left to right. They had to widen the track by 2.5 inches. It was fitted with a roll cage. It had reinforced suspension so it could take the landing. The V8 engine was moved back behind the front axle to help with the weight distribution. There was some weight put in the boot. The steering was moved to the center. And the driver sat in the center with a dummy Bond and a dummy Sheriff on either side. And he had to hit the ramp at exactly the right speed, I believe 43 miles an hour.
Okay, yep.
That was part of the calculation. The ramp had to be angled just so both ends of the ramp had to be just right. Huge amount of setup went into it. Milligan and his guys modified the car, and it still exists today. We'll come on to that. There they were out in Thailand. They built this ramp on either side of a river. They'd got the car. They'd selected the guy who was going to do it. A guy called Lauren Willard, Bumps Willard, he was called, was his name, and he did the stunt. He worked for Milligan, and he did a lot of his kind of jump stunts and things like that, but he'd never done this stunt before. So they got it all lined up. They'd got, everybody was very nervous. Guy Hamilton, the director, was very nervous about it. Cubby was nervous. Everyone was there. Christopher Lee was there. Roger Moore was there to watch it. They had ambulances. They had divers in the water ready to go in after it if the car ended up in the river. If the ramp broke or something, there was a very high chance that the car would end up upside down in the river. So they also had a crane just off camera because they'd worked out they could send in divers with a winch and a cable and bring the whole car and the driver up in one faster than they could send in divers after just the driver. So that was the plan. If it went wrong, they were going to lift the car out of the water with a crane. Huge amount of lifting equipment there. The driver obviously in a 5-point restraining harness, not easy to get out of.
No. Not
so if he did go in the drink, it was quicker to bring the whole car out. So there they all were, all set, cameras all lined up, ready to go, and off he went, and it went perfectly. And the shot in the film is the only time it was done. The stunt was done in one take.
Yeah, you don't want to be fannying around and keep doing that. Do not
No.
chance your arm.
Well, funny you should say that, because they did the stunt and it worked perfectly. Everything went exactly to plan. The film of it was spot on, blue sky behind it, and the weather was perfect, everything. It was absolutely right. And Guy Hamilton said, it looks a bit too good. Looks too perfect. And Cubby looked at it and he said, it doesn't feel. It's so perfect. It looks like a model. Maybe we should do it again.
Nope.
Apparently, Mr. Willard said, we're certainly not doing it again, because that's the only time I've done it. And we're bloody lucky to have got away with it.
Should we? I mean, it's a massively impressive feat, and one that's ingrained in cinema history. It's one it ended up in the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah.
However,
absolutely.
there's an elephant in the room.
I think I know what you're going to say. I don't like to mention this because it spoils it.
The poxy slide whistle.
What were they thinking?
What is that about?
See, that comes back to what I said earlier about this film not quite being sure what it wants to be. I get the bit of light relief afterwards where Pepper ends up in the back seat.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
Yes, although we missed the line that initiated it all, one of my favourites.
Oh.
I'm not thinking. I sure am, boy.
Ever heard of Evel Knievel? Yes.
Excellent.
Wonderful delivery from Roger Moore.
But that whistle in the middle, that can just do one.
Who thought of that? I can't believe John Barry put that in. But it is on the soundtrack album.
It's a bit crass, isn't it?
Doesn't need it. What you actually need over that is complete silence, I think.
Yeah, you need that intake of breath, no noise.
I think so.
And he's landed it. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. As the car is in midair, rolling over, I don't think you need any sound.
Because actually, when you say about the car being in midair, they slowed it down, didn't they?
Yeah, slightly. It does look absolutely perfect. And the whole thing done in one take. That's the only time it was done. And it does look absolutely perfect. And I get the argument that it looks too good. Maybe we should do it again and try and mess it up a bit. But of course, the risk was, if you're deliberately trying to mess it up, you're going to kill someone.
Yeah, that's it. You just go,
that was
what?
Incredibly dangerous thing they did.
We got away with this. Let's not.
Yeah. Well, the stuntman refused. He said, we're not doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, bollocks to that.
And apparently later in the day, later in the day, Cubby went and found him and gave him a fistful of $100 bills and said, there you go. Good job.
I'd heard that it was more than a fistful.
Well, it might well have been. Yes.
I've heard rumours that this on the spot was given 30 grand.
Yeah, it might well have been. Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah. Cubby was a very generous man. Yes.
Yeah, and he was just going, you know what, you've earned that. You're still with us. You've done it well. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone was there to watch it. And it's the most impressive thing in the film, really. It was an incredible piece of stunt work. Now, the car, which still exists today. So just to touch on it, the heavily modified Hornet, which I think only had about 10 miles on the clock because it was brand new. It was straight off the line. They modified it. It did this stunt, and it's never done anything else. It's all it's ever done. It went back because it belonged to Milligan, stunt coordinator. And after filming, it was shipped back to the US, and it went into his private collection. It went into his workshop, and there it stayed until his death in 2017. where his son auctioned it off. It was auctioned at Sotheby's. Now, what do you think that would have sold for in 2017?
Oh, that's
have a guess. Have a guess. What did that sell for? No googling. What did that sell for?
No. You can hear it if I'm off typing.
Yes. I'll give you the guide price if you want.
Yeah, go on then.
Guide price at the auction was $250,000 to $300,000.
Okay, I'm gonna hedge my bets and actually say it went for less.
It did go for less. That's very good.
I think it's something. It's a car and a stunt that is revered in Bond circles, but probably gets a little bit forgotten outside.
The car was in as jumped condition. It had never done anything else. It literally left the set, was shipped back to America, and it was pushed into his workshop, and there it stayed. So it's exactly as it was used.
I am going to say it not only went low, it went quite low. 62,500.
That's very specific.
Yeah.
Very specific. It went for 110,000.
Okay. That's I mean, nowadays I can see it going for more because everything has gone insane.
Oh, now, yeah. I mean, AMC generally find one, don't go for particularly big money.
Yeah, they're not.
You get a bit of him, did you, going up the road?
Yeah, that was nice. We haven't had him for a while.
We haven't had him for ages, have we? And my window's closed. Yes.
Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. I think the listeners will be upset because they've not had this for a while.
We've not had him for a while. There he is.
Oh, there you go. You've sent me some pictures.
I've just sent you a couple of pictures of the actual car. Yeah.
There he is with his seat in the middle. There he is.
Seat in the middle. You can see the wider track of the front wheels there.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. But yeah, $110,000 that sold for to a private collector in 2017. So, yeah.
It's a shame because you think actually that should be more revered, I would say.
I think so. Even if you're not particularly into the film, the stunt was so impressive.
Yeah, it was.
And a one of a kind. You know, well, I mean, no one can do it on film now because it belongs to Eon Productions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he bought it in. That's still a thing. So
they hold the patent to that stunt. They did slightly use it again in a later film. You remember where? That's made you think. Isn't it?
No, I'm.
It's used in The World Is Not Enough. At the beginning, Bond's
he's in the with the boat. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And he does the boat does a somersault when it jumps over the Sunseeker and takes out the bridge. It does a somersault in midair.
It does, yes, I do recall that. Yeah,
and I like to think that's a little nod to Golden Gun.
Yeah, because that's. I've seen some of the behind the scenes of that, and that looked like faff.
Oh yeah. Well, this was quite a lot of faff.
That's. Well, at least the car one was all done in one go. It seems like the whole pre-credits of The World Is Not Enough is not only long but bloody complex as well.
Yeah, it is complex. Yeah, that was weeks of shooting, wasn't it, to get that? Yeah, and I believe they had several of those boats to try that jump with, and several Sunseekers as well.
Yes.
Whereas in Golden Gun they had one car.
A car, yes, there you go.
A car, and they did it once, and it went perfectly. But it might not have. I mean, the driver could have been killed doing that. Easily.
Oh yeah, that could have been court case, no film, all done.
Yeah, absolutely, it could. Yeah, and AMC want their sponsorship money back. But
no, all was well. But boy, it still doesn't get around the fact that what on earth are they doing in this film? I know it's product placement, but it's I mean, there's shoehorned, and then there's
it
that.
makes absolutely no sense. The worst bit, as you pointed out earlier, was giving AMC cars to the Hong Kong police. There is no way.
Oh, it's weird.
It's a very strange choice, isn't it? Yeah, but I think it was because the stunt guy Milligan had worked out this sponsorship deal without really thinking about it, and went to Cubby with it as a kind of finished package, and said, "You can have this stunt, but we have to use AMC cars." And I think it was kind of a done deal before it got anywhere near the production.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I mean, we just have to accept it, but it does jar a little.
Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it, at all? But I suppose if you don't know that Thailand is right-hand drive and you just kind of, you may overlook it. I don't know.
I pointed out to Kaylee and she's like, you just need to get a life. And like, all right, okay.
It is, I suppose maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I think it could be us. Probably not specifically just us, but...
Oh, no, I've heard that it bothers other people, but it's probably not as big an issue as we think it is. Yes.
No. Right. Okay. So we've covered film, we've covered cars, we've covered songs. Briefly, actually, on songs before we get to a wrapping up point. There was another version of the song.
Oh, was there? Okay.
By a rather different artist.
Do I know this? I don't know if I do.
Alice Cooper.
I did know that. Yes, I have heard this. Yes. Yeah.
That would have been a bit different, wouldn't it?
That would have been, wouldn't it? Yeah, absolutely. It would have been a little bit different. I suppose, sort of following on a little bit from Live and Let Die.
Yeah,
little bit.
I suppose
that would have been
difficult though, because I mean, you go Live and Let Die. You've got your middle of the road Paul McCartney and his Wings.
Yeah.
If you want his chirpy little Liverpudlian doing your song, you got an angry snake wielding, long haired, leather clad
lunatic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it would have been a bit different. Yeah. Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I got all the time in the world for a bit of Alice Cooper. I like that.
Oh yeah. No, I haven't got a problem. And he's huge petrol head, so he would have appreciated the AMCs there.
Yeah. But I'm sure if his song was used, he would have wangled a free one out of it.
Oh, he'd have ended up with a Hornet. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that would be the right choice, actually. I mean, if we're rounding off the car bit as well, I'd have the Hornet over the Matador.
Oh, no question about it.
Yeah,
no question about it. I have seen road because it was down at Bewley last time I went. It was the sort of Bond in Motion collection, but before it became Bond in Motion.
Yes, I've seen the same one. It was in that little outbuilding in the early days. Yeah.
It was, along with a number of others, but they did have a Hornet there, which I believe was screen used. But it wasn't this stunt one. It was one of the road cars. It was just a standard one.
It was fair.
There is another blooper in that chase sequence. There is. It's very small, but I noticed it many, many moons ago.
Go on.
Now, Bond's hammering down the road there, and they realise that Scaramangas and Knick-Knack are on the other side of the river.
Yes.
We won't delve too deep into how he got on the other side of the river, but anyway.
No, let's not worry about that.
Let's not worry too much about that. And Sheriff Pepper said, "You goofed, boy." And he does handbrake turn, turns it around, and fires it back up the way he came.
Yep.
There's a close-up of Roger Moore.
Yep.
Sheriff Pepper says the last bridge is 2 miles back. That bit, if you look in the rear window of the car, halfway through that close-up of Roger Moore, you can see a big piece of cloth fall down over the rear window, which I believe was something they'd wrapped around the camera rigging, which was strapped around the roof of the car.
Oh, okay.
To stop it scratching the paint or denting it, and they there was cloth wrapped around the bits of scaffolding that were holding the camera to the side of the car, and some of that cloth had come loose and it flops down over the rear window. Watch it; it's there.
Oh, I'll have to dig that out because I'll skim over to that bit because I don't remember seeing that.
It's there. You ever look? Just as Sheriff Pepper says, "Last bridge is 2 miles back." Look at the rear window of the car.
Okay. Yep. I'll go and search that out.
It's tiny, but it's there.
Very good. Right.
Good stuff. It's a good sequence. It's a good driving sequence. I think.
Yeah. Happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not happy with the car selection, perhaps, but we're happy with the.
I quite like the Hornet. The Matador's a bit weird, as a lot of AMC stuff was, but I quite like the Hornet. It just has no business being in Thailand. That's the
that's the issue, isn't it?
It's not the car so much; it's its place there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, where does that leave us? Then we need to decide whether this is masterpiece and all of the reviews are a bit too harsh, or whether when you revisit it, is there an element of truth in the harsh reviews?
Well, it'll always be special to me because it's the first Bond film I ever remember seeing. And I've watched it a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
I don't think it's a perfect film, but I don't think it deserved to do as badly on launch as it did. Is it as good as Live and Let Die? I think it's as good as. And that's partly because of the villain. It's such a strong villain.
Yeah, you are entirely correct.
I really like it, and I
this
is as badly as it did.
This is fascinating. I mean, say fascinating. I may have over-egged that.
Fascinating?
I've had a little click around. Right. Well, I put the question to you again. Right. Is this masterpiece or is it flawed? Is it not? I think it's judged too harshly.
Yeah.
Like not just a little bit. I judged really too harshly. I think it works superbly as a Bond film, and I think people just need to relax a bit.
Yeah. I agree entirely. I'm not saying it's perfect. I don't know. I'd call it a masterpiece as such.
No.
It's not an On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Let's be honest. It's not an epic like that.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But it is a very, very good Roger Moore 70s Bond film. It is a proper Bond film.
It is. And you put it up there and said, look, I like that as much as I like Live and Let Die.
Yeah. If not, a little bit more.
I agreed with your original stance. I would put them on a par.
Yeah.
I couldn't choose between the two, if I'm honest.
I will watch Golden Gun more than I will watch Live and Let Die.
Okay.
But again, that's partly because it's a special one to me because it's the first one I remember seeing. So that's a very personal thing. I don't expect you to, necessarily be on board with that.
No, that's a bit more specific to you. But I think they're on a par. And the bit that I found interesting and gave me a chuckle is I happened to go onto IMDb, and their rating is identical.
Is it? Oh, very good. Yeah.
And the rating for both is 6.7 out of 10, which I think is harsh on both counts.
That is harsh. They're worth more than that. They're definitely worth more than that. Both
minimum 8.
Minimum 8. Minimum 8. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think with Golden Gun, as I said, it's a lot of it is down to it's such a good villain. It's so much better character than he is in the books, and Christopher Lee just plays it so well. The scenes between him and Bond, when they first meet in the boxing arena, and when they They have, the lunch scene on the island.
Yeah.
When I kill, it is on specific orders of my government, and all that. See, that's a wonderful scene.
They play really well off of one another.
Yeah, I mean, they knew each other, so they had, great chemistry. But Christopher Lee just plays it so well. And of course, he was Ian Fleming's cousin.
Yes, this is
so he had a link to Bond, and he had worked in the secret world during the war as well.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating life.
Fascinating life. Spoke something like 8 languages with no accent, photographic memory. Very, very intelligent man. Yeah, as you say, a fascinating life. But again, so delighted to be in a Bond film because of his personal connection to the whole. He used to play golf with Fleming. They knew each other well, and to be, I think, one of the strongest villains in the whole series.
Oh yeah, he's right up there.
Yeah,
no question about it.
Definitely, they very much make him the dark side of Bond, which and none of that's in the book. It's one of the rare cases where the character is better in the film than it is in the book.
Yeah. No, you're going to get no arguments from me on that. Well, all right then. What we've done when we've concluded all of the other films is we've not really rated them. The only thing that we say at the end of them is whether you should go away and watch them yourselves because they're good, or you don't need to bother because we've done it.
I think we've kind of already covered that, haven't we?
We have.
You should absolutely immerse yourself in The Man with the Golden Gun. Not like that.
Not like that. No, don't. Oh my God, you can't end it like that. Yes, please go and watch The Man with the Golden Gun immediately.
And do not dwell at all on what he's doing in.
What he's doing in what? Of all the places for you to cut out.
Thailand.
Oh God, right. Yes. I'm leaving that mess in.
You usually do.
I do.
Well, I think that's probably enough of that for this week. Check us out on all the various social medias and things. Thank you very much for listening.